Final Stop Brazil. Book 2, Life After Hell. Chapter 52. Unforgettable show with Pixote. Erotic adventure of a different kind. Liege, on the other hand, had always time to listen to me and understood my concerns. She advised me to accept the offer which I had recently received from Julia, who was planning to relocate to Salvador with her mother and rent Italva's house next to the studio together with me. It is better for you if you come back to Stella Maris. You're there all alone in Itinga, and the area is no good either. Here you would be living with Julia, her mother, Icaro, Italva, and we can see each other more often. You can come here any time. I would not be so lonely. But did I really want that? My bad mood was not just because of Vinicius, but also because of André, whom I had left all this time now hanging in the air. He had invited me to go with him to Feira de Santana in the interior of Bahia. I just could not decide if I should accept or decline. He seemed to be somehow the only reasonable Bahian man in this world who not only thought different but also possessed character. Did I make another mistake here? I didn't know it, and struggled with me to finally blow it off with him. Liege remarked, "If the heart says no, sense won't reason." Sad as I came, I left Stella Maris. I didn't feel any better when I received a call from some Carlos. I neither knew him, nor did I know where he got my number from. Anyway, he was determined to come to Itinga the same evening. I didn't believe it, didn't even know how this Carlos looked like. When I arrived at Itinga and got off the bus, I saw a black man who was sitting outside the bakery, just the same way as previously Geo did, waiting for me. In fact, he looked like Geo. I wasn't certain, because I had changed the side of the road already and couldn't make it out in the dark. I didn't want to make myself an idiot again, either, and went straight home. Thus I had supposedly scattered the last chance between me and Geo. This Carlos was indeed on his way to Itinga, confused away and couldn't proceed, however, turned back again. The call I received in which he told me this was the last thing I ever heard of him. Another Saturday night I spent alone and cried myself to sleep. This solitude was almost impossible to bear. The others had at least their children around them. I had no one, only Samba, my little dog, the only one who loved me madly and became very devoted to me. Sunday was, however, the extreme opposite, and turned out for me to be an unforgettable day, just like the Exalta Samba show. Until late I had thought about buying a ticket for the show of Pixote. Didn't do it. Then because I didn't want to spend another 30 reais for nothing due to my feelings of depression. Besides, I was really tired to go to these shows alone. Miraculously, I got up with brilliant humor and was full of energy. I had no plans for the day, so why shouldn't I go there? Maybe I was lucky and still could get an entrance ticket if I was there early enough. Thus, I took off already in the morning. On the way to the bus stop, I met Ada outside the bakery. As always, we embraced each other as a welcome, and only in passing I took notice of someone in the background, watching us pretty intensely. Only later, when I thought about it, I realized that it was Geo. Ada complained that I had forgotten him and the other children, probably because I hardly ever came to see them in the street. I searched for words to explain it to him. But how should this 13-year-old boy understand how much I had suffered and was still suffering? Besides, I didn't want to lose a bad word about Geo, since he was just like me, the friend of all children here. The bus ride brought me in areas of Salvador I didn't know yet. In fact, I knew very little, not even all the historical center I had been before. Although Italva had promised me many times to show me more about Salvador. Until now, nothing had happened, but I knew she had little time. Also Leo and Geo had both promised me to show me Salvador. Geo wanted to take me to Pelourinho. and who knows where else yet. At the port I came off the bus and found immediately the tapishi, the place where the show was taking place. At the entrance I asked if I could still get a ticket, and was immediately admitted. It seemed as if I was the first guest, since around me were only people for the stage setup, technicians, food and beverage suppliers, etc. The organizers offered me to take a seat at the table. For the 30 reais, I had not only my entrance, but also a free VIP wristband. This meant I had free access to the VIP lounge. This is a good start, I thought, delighted. The two organizers seemed to like me very much. We had a casual conversation. They confessed to find it extremely interesting that the Alemã was crazy for samba. One of them warned me that I should be careful with my camera when I left this open-air hall, for outside was not the best area. There would be specialists only waiting that people came out of the hall, as it was known that many fans carried cameras. It started to become hectic, and those two organizers were running excited up and down to give any instructions. So I left the hall and allowed myself this day a grilled steak with fries. When the show was opened by a Bahian samba group, I was not alone for long. A good-looking Moreno, not quite fresh, but with his graying hair quite sexy, was suddenly beside me and talked to me. This sound engineer practically no longer left my side, and if only to check if cables and sound were okay or to welcome many friends, but he came back immediately to my side. We sat down inside the camarote, VIP lounge, where he invited me for a drink. He seemed to be quite important here. When he promised to take me backstage to meet the guys and girls of Pixote, I could have fallen around his neck with joy. When he asked me to wait for him after the show, it seemed at first completely irrelevant. On the other hand, I didn't have to worry anymore whether I might miss the end of the show due to catching a bus home in time, because he offered to take me home in his car. In fact, I was backstage before Pixote started with their show, waiting for the vocalist Dodo and the other guys of the band, which is the most favorite samba group throughout Brazil and moderately successful right behind Exalta Samba. Not shy, I went over to Dodo and greeted him with a small lie. I've come especially from Alemania just to see you live. I shot a lot of photos of the group. Pictures of us all together were taken. We talked and joked together before the show began, and then I witnessed backstage the super show of Pixote. I would not have dared to dream about this 1 year ago, when I still listened with my small radio and headphones to the music of Pixote. Enthusiastic, I sang and danced and hugged Dodo and the boys happily. Finally met even the guest of the show, Andre, the vocalist of another known samba band from Sao Paulo, Cupim na Mesa, who was singing together with Dodo and recited the latest hit of his group. Afterwards, photographs were taken of us together. Unforgettable experiences for me, who needed a Vinicius if you had Pixote. I met even the two female back vocals of Pixote. Without them, the group would be only half as successful. After the show, I got to know them and admitted how much I admire their great voices and took more pictures of them. Finally, almost all groups gathered backstage, and I was surrounded by a lot of sambistas. Ira Nilsson then reappeared, and we danced samba together to the music of the next group. It was a very hot samba, along with intense physical contact. It was clear what he wanted from me. I wanted it also. Finally, there had to be a successor of Joe. When this super show ended, and thus this evening, I was still invited by one of the organizers for a drink while waiting for Ira Nilsson. To the question whether I would be there again next time, I replied with enthusiasm, "Of course, I won't be missing Katingele live, but only if I'm allowed backstage again." Ira Nilsson had finished his work. His friend was driving the car because Ira Nilsson had already drunk some alcohol. I thought nothing of it yet. Neither did I when his friend dropped us in front of the house where Ira Nilsson had his apartment and drove away with the car. Ira Nilsson possessed a beautiful and spacious apartment in Itapua with a wonderful large terrace. He showed me his recording studio where he worked when he was at home, showed and explained me the films he produced since he was also a commercial film producer. And finally we ended up in his bed. But it was neither romantic nor erotic. To be exact, nothing really happened, and it was far from being satisfactory for me. I heard again the words, "I never sleep with a woman in the first night. And not only that, I invite you for dinner next weekend. I am a very good cook. Moreover, I could get you a lot of translation jobs. I know a whole lot of people, and a lot alike." He saved my phone number in his phone. Since I decided to go home, but his friend had taken the car, he took me now generously to the bus stop, even though I didn't know whether there was still a bus going. After all, it was already 1:30 in the morning. Apparently, he had no money in the house except 4 reais, and unfortunately could not pay a taxi for me. The 4 reais I took of him, however. Fortunately, a last bus was going to the Plaza de Caranguejo. From there I was hoping to get home with a motor taxi. What a night from Ira Nilsson! I never heard anything again. Totally whacked, I sat at my desk on Monday, discovered that Vinicius was online, and sent him a live message that I missed his voice and his messages. Immediately he was offline. Therefore, a day later, Eduardo was online and had another go at me once again with cheeky remarks. "On Sunday we're going out together, okay?" To which I replied, no less cheeky, "Oh, you actually know more than I do." "But what are you doing on Saturday?" "Saturday I'll be giving you a massage, kissing you and making love to you." Maluco imbecile. But why not? With my marriage, it got moving a little forward because I had the sensational idea to look in the Orkut for a German in Hamburg who could help me with the procurement and legalization of my documents. In fact, 2 men responded. One was quite ready, but gave his account number so that I immediately paid him for a service. Of course I would pay for the fees, but I had actually imagined that they did me a friendship favor and went to the offices without charging me for it. This, the second man was prepared to do so. He was not only very nice, spoke almost fluent Portuguese, and knew Brazil very well, since he was married to a Brazilian. He made sure that I got almost all the documents together, missing only the legalization at the Brazilian embassy in Germany. But unfortunately, it was not in Hamburg, but only in Berlin. That meant everything all over again, because internet printouts were not recognized, of course. Thus, the German had to go with an authorization granted by me and get the original documents. For the sending back and forth to the Brazilian embassy, I was at the time lacking the money, but I tried to put aside as much as possible to cover for that. The only dark spot in this matter was the fact that I had a son who lived somewhere in Hamburg, but was not in the position to obtain the necessary documents for his mother, because he did not even have the interest to maintain regular contact. Of him I received in those days, however, contrary to my expectation, an email in which he wrote me that he was in Spain on holidays. How great it was, and now he thought about going back to live in Spain. My issues interested him in no way. The idea to visit me in Brazil he had apparently already rejected, even though I sent him emails with cheap flights. And anyway, for what had I fought so much that he could remain in Spain, and had forgot my own defense, completely neglected my case when he played now with the idea to go back to Spain? Did he actually know how much he hurt me? I felt every time more that my life was wasted for 2 children that could not have been more selfish and ungrateful. My son had been the meaning of my life, but I meant nothing at all for him. For him, it had no more importance to see me again, so I probably had to compensate with it for good.